Hey guys, how's it going? My name is Taylor, and today we're in my brand new shop, and that's probably why it's echoing, but I want to show you guys an old Ford that you probably never heard of before or seen before. And here it is. This is a 1966 Ford Cortina Super GT, and from what I understand, this is one of the most popular cars ever produced by Ford for England. They ran production from I think 1962 to around 1980 and made over 1 million of these cars. This happens to be a Mark I for 1966. In 1967 they switched to a Mark II and changed the body style a little bit. And this car has been on its way to a full restoration, but there have been some hiccups along the way for some previous owners. Now, as you can tell here, this car is in fact in pieces. There's a lot of original stuff here, but there's a lot of things we're going to have to replace. But this car was pretty well done so far as the paintwork's concerned. The inside of the doors were painted. All of the black that you see here as an accent was all repainted at the time of the total repaint of the car. And this happens to be one of the more rare models because it's a Mark I Super GT, so it comes with the factory tack and all of the gauges in the dash, which actually were shared with the very similar car, the Lotus Cortina, which was a twin cam 4-cylinder engine, and that is a very rare car. They share essentially everything that the Ford does, except it's rebadged as a Lotus and it has that Lotus twin cam motor. Now, this car is going to need a lot of work, and of course I bought somebody else's unfinished project. But it's a very rare car from what I understand. I'd never even seen one before. My dad actually is the one who told me about it, and we bought it together to work on it. So hopefully within the next couple of months, we'll get this car put back together and get it in running condition. Now, I mentioned a moment ago that the previous owners had some hiccups, and unfortunately the man responsible for the repaint and most of the teardown of this car actually passed away several years ago, and the gentleman that we bought it from actually purchased it from his estate. So this car has been in pieces for a long time, but there are a lot of parts that have already been collected for this car, and I'll show you some of that stuff here in the trunk right now. Get this light turned on. We got a center console for it, a lot of new trim. There's a lot of documentation for things here in the trunk. And these cars, from what I've read, are very susceptible to rust, especially in the upper wheel houses and shock towers. But this car is solid as a rock. I mean, I crawled all over this thing and could not find a speck of rust anywhere underneath it, which makes it even more rare than your average car, because most of these things just rusted to pieces and have become one with the earth again for years now. But this car is very well intact. You can see the floors, everything is just very solid in this car. The whole transmission tunnel, the dash, I mean, it's really a good contender for a restoration project. Get this light turned off now. And anyways, we're gonna really enjoy trying to get this car back on the road. And one other cool thing to note is these are actually ET mags from the early 70s, I believe. They're magnesium wheels, 13-inch, and they give this car a really cool look. And I'm excited to polish those out and really get this car looking good again. Now, hopefully you guys can see this, but it actually has little ghosted racing stripes. It's basically it's like a flat white, like a Wimbledon white paint, and then it has a metallic stripe that was cleared over all the way down the hood, the roof, and the trunk lid, and it's almost undetectable unless you're looking at it in the right light, but it's very cool. Now, this is the factory little 4-cylinder motor that came in it, and it has definitely seen better days. It's just filthy, but something that's very neat, which I just actually learned about, was we got 3 different motors with this car, 1 in the car and 2 over here, which I'll show you. And one of them in particular is very cool. This right here is called a Vulcan 4-cylinder. And the serial number here, which is important, is a 711M. And supposedly this is a Kent block, which a lot of the hot rodders of these cars use because they can handle a lot more power. The factory motor in that car, I think, produced somewhere around 56 horsepower. This engine right here with the cylinder head, the valve train, and the camshaft should produce around 125 horsepower, which is a big gain, especially in a little car like that. That thing only weighs 1,700 pounds, so when I get this motor in the car, this car is really gonna be something. And as I was digging through a box of some other parts for this car, I found a bunch of documentation on the engine and a lot of stuff that previous owner bought, and found one of the original owner's manuals as well, which is just incredible for a car of this age and the history of it being torn apart for so long. And digging through even more of this documentation that I found in the car, I found over $12,000 of receipts between paint and body work on the car, engine work, and various other items. So we picked this car up for $79.50, which I was a little afraid of because it was completely in pieces and I knew nothing about it, but somebody spent an awful lot more than we paid for this car just in some of the body work and parts for it. So when this thing's complete, it could be worth a fair amount of money. But just look at the front of this car. This thing just looks so cool. It's just tiny. I mean, look at this car compared to this truck right here. I mean, this is an extended cab long box pickup. That car is just minuscule, and even next to a fairly small Mercury Cougar, which is the same platform as like a Ford Mustang, it's just absolutely tiny. So I am really looking forward to working on this car, getting that powertrain in there, and just giving this thing a new lease on life, because it's come a long way, but it's still got a long way to go. Well guys, that's gonna do it for today's video. I just wanted to give a little introduction on yet another project for the channel, which is this little Ford Cortina. And this is a big learning experience for me. I've never had one of these cars. I'm always into the old Chevrolets and all the actual American stuff. So if I was wrong about something in this video, I'm willing to learn. Please inform me if you know something more about this car than I already do. But I'm really looking forward to getting to working on it, and you guys will be brought along for the entire process of getting this car back on the road. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a big thumbs up for me and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more automotive content like you saw here today. Got a ton of projects coming here for the channel this year, and I'm looking forward to seeing you guys next video.